Well, good evening. Um, my clock is just ringing. It's 5:30. Welcome, welcome. So tonight I thought I'd come and I'd show you um, one of the flies that I've kind of been playing with in the last year or so. Really, this winter more as a tire, and I'm going to fish them more this summer. But it's this pattern. Here it is. It's this wedge head streamer pattern. It's an Andres Anderson pattern, and it's it's the way it's designed is, when you strip it through the water, this little head here is going to push water around, and so it should get a lot of movement in the water. Let me share some color schemes I've kind of done here. Here's one. This one I was kind of going after a bit of a perch. It's a little bit bigger hook, but kind of you can see it's got an orange belly on it, and it's kind of more of a perch colored one, and it's a little bigger. This one is one I definitely am going to throw and fish for musky. It's kind of got it's got an olive or sort of a ochre yellow hair strip with some olive banding on it. The strip came like that. Let's find another one here. Here's another one. This is kind of an all gray one, but I put the feather, I put some flash in it. Here's a really good, this, by the way, these next two colors are great Pike colors, just an all black. You see it's all black. It's real simple. There's nothing to it. You can also tie this all black with red underneath or whatever combo. And this one, white. The largest pike I've caught on Lake George, the lake that I fish, that I have my cabin on in Michigan. It's not considered a big pike lake. But I caught it on a rabbit strip, all white rabbit strip streamer, and it was a 36-inch pike, which in pike's terms is not huge, but the all white is a really good color. But the color I'm going to tie tonight, this is kind of a fun color. This blue and white one. And I've done blue and white flies before. I've never done this pattern, and I haven't fished this pattern in blue and white, but I have done. Here's a blue and white, diver. Here's another one. Kind of same idea. It's got some blue in it. And I've caught plenty of bass and stuff on these guys. So there's just a few patterns that I've tied. So let's go ahead and let's tie this pattern. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work with my rabbit. And one of the things I want to do, if you look at this pattern, one of the things you can see, it's got a pretty robust strip on it. It's bigger than a Magnum. If you get zonker strips, it's bigger than a Magnum zonker strip. It might be Texas cut, although I've had a hard time finding Texas cut strips. I've just taken to cutting strips myself, just to make sure I get it, because I want a pretty robust fly. I mean, for trout, for smaller flies, for trout, you could definitely probably get away with the zonker strips. But for these pike and musky flies, I want something that's going to have some heft to it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my rabbit strip, and I'm just going to take it, and very carefully I'm going to cut about a centimeter wide strip out of this. And to do that, these are the razor blades I'm using. They're Gem single edge razor blades, and they're really sharp. In fact, Tim England, actually, if you're familiar with Tim England's fly tying, he actually trims his hair with, or he did at one time anyway, with these flies. So let me go ahead and get this one out of the holder. And I don't know, let me see if I can adjust. See, I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not. Maybe we'll be able to see this. Yeah, okay, I guess you can see that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here. I guess that's not a great look. Let's see if I can angle this over just a little bit. Let me adjust my holder here. Maybe get my vice set out of the way for a moment. There we go. That's probably not too bad a look. Okay, so I'm going to start here. I'm going to go about 1 centimeter wide. As long as I go slow, you know, this just cuts right through. I mean, I have to put no pressure on this at all. And I'm just going to come down here. I'm going to follow that outer edge. And I can cut them by hand this way. And I'm going to cut one long strip. So I'm just kind of working my way down here. And I'm just kind of watching and keeping that at about 1 centimeter wide. I got a little narrow there. Come back out. And just work my way down here. Whoops. Oh, I slipped. Okay, we're just going to end it there. I'll have to come back and straighten that edge up later. But this will do the trick. And then I'll just come up here and I'll take my razor blade and trim it up and get that strip off. Okay, so let's put that away. Let's readjust my, put my vise set back in here. And so now I'll take my rabbit strip here and I'll take my blade and I'll just come down in here a little bit and cut that top edge off, which is kind of rough. So now you can see I've got a pretty robust strip here. It's not perfect. It's not perfectly aligned. You see I did a little wobble there. At the end I kind of tapered off as I was coming down. But anyway, so this is the strip that I'll use. And like I said, I like to use wider strips than you normally get, okay? So the hook I'm going to use is the Ahrex, it's the Ahrex 650, TP650. It's the one that's got the bend in it. This happens to be a 2-aught, and I've tied these a lot bigger than this too. You know, however, I've also taken Partridge Predator X hooks, and I've just put a bend in them myself. So you can do that if you want to. All right, so let's see here. Let's go ahead and get started. So I'm gonna come in here. Come on, hey Jason, how you doing? I see you just popped in. So I'm gonna just wet the hook shank a little bit with some of this Zap-A-Gap. This is Zap-A-Gap. So I'm using a, this actually happens to be, I believe it's a Wapsi 3. It's basically using 3/0 or UTC 140 weight threads. So I'm going to come in here, and if you notice, I'm a little behind the bend. I'm not coming right up to the bend of the hook. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wind back here to my tie-in point, which is where the bend of the hook begins. And a lot of these hooks, the tie-in point is right about straight above the point of the hook. A lot of hooks. Sometimes it's about halfway between the point and the barb, but on this hook, you know, I try to treat the right above the point of the barb as, or right above the point of the hook as the tie-in point. So the first thing I'm going to put in is some. Now, when Andreas Anderson, when I saw him tie this pattern, he did not do what I'm doing now. This is, I don't want to say it's my addition. He's done a lot of variations. It wouldn't surprise me if he's done this. It kind of seems to make sense to me that you would do this. But this is the way I'm tying them, and the reason I'm tying them this way is because I have found on almost all of my streamer type patterns, I put some kind of a stiff material as an underlying foundation to keep things from wrapping, whether it be rabbit or streamer hair or whatever, okay? So let me comb this out. Find my comb here. There we go. Just clean it out a little bit. We'll see how it stacks. Sometimes bucktail doesn't stack real well. This one isn't actually too bad. I could almost use it like that, really. But I'll give it one quick little stack, just since I pulled my stacker out. Yeah, I'm not sure I improved it any, maybe a little bit. I don't know. Is that better? I'm not even sure that's better. That might be worse. There we go. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'll come right up here in the front. Let's pull out any short ones I might have. And then I'm going to come and trim it flat. Now I'm going to take my thread all the way to that where I started it. If you recall, I didn't want to come all the way into the bend, and this is why. So I'm going to start right here, get a couple wraps, tighten down on it, and then I'm going to hold it right here on top and come back and wrap. And then when I get to the back, I don't want to pull really hard on it right away, because I don't, otherwise it'll flare. I kind of want to keep it as a bunch. Come back in. And then I think what I'll do is just to kind of gather everything, I'll just do one little tuck wrap up in there. That'll pull my fibers up just a little bit. Then I'm going to take this big long rabbit strip I just cut, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the whole thing, and then I'll cut it to length after I put it on. That way I can get maybe 3 flies out of this, where if I pre-cut it, then I adjust it. I don't think I don't know, it might not be quite as good. So anyway, I'm going to leave my thread there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to measure my, this is why I left that little space. That's kind of where I want to adhere the rabbit strip to. So I'm going to roll it up here on top, hold it in place, stretch this out across the back. Now you can see my thread hanging here. I'm going to use that spot. That's going to be my tie down point for this stuff. And I'm going to separate it out till I get right down in. Now I noticed when I watched Anderson tie, this Andreas Anderson tied, he wet the rabbit strip. I don't know, you can do that if you want. I haven't found it to be necessary. So I'm down to the hide right here. Now if I kind of come in and use my finger, come in, now I'm going to pull down tight. And I want to probably get at least 6 or so wraps on that. Make sure everything stays right up on top here. And we'll just let this rabbit strip kind of hang off the back. Now I'm going to come in here. Now, this is where you can pick this one. This happens to be Hairline UV Polar. So it's a polar. The thing I like about it is, I don't know if you can see it in the light. It's not popping in this light, but it has sometimes it has some little blue highlights in it, which is kind of cool. So I'm going to sit here. It's kind of awkward, but I'm going to work with the whole bundle. Again, same reason, I'm kind of saving. I'm not using, if I cut a strip off and then wrap it for a few flies, and I'll always end up having a little scrap at the end. So rather than do that, I just kind of deal with the whole bundle. Come and wrap it back. And come forward. And then I'll come in here. And all I'm going to do is just wrap, pull all these fibers back, wrap, do the same. I'm just stacking these wraps, run right tight in front of the next one. I'm not spacing them out at all. Sweep all that back, sweep it back, and just kind of keep working my way to the front. Get a little snarl in there. Okay, another wrap, sweep back, another wrap, sweep back, another wrap, sweep back, and there I am. I think I'm right up here at the front now. So I'll just kind of sweep it back, tie it off, come in here and cut it. And then just kind of sweep all that stuff back, get a couple good thread wraps right there. Now I'm going to pull all that down, and I'm going to pull my rabbit strip forward and pull it as tight as I can possibly get it. Pull all the fur back here and get it up here in front. Get all the sparkle and polar chenille behind it, and then come and get it in there. Up, I'm almost, there we go. Now I'm on it. Let me get my comb. I see I got a couple fibers I kind of captured here. Let's see if I can lift them up. There we go. All right, so I'm just gonna get some good tight wraps right up in here on top of the rabbit strip, and then I can come in and just do a quick whip finish and cut it. Now I can take my rabbit strip, I can look at it here, and you know, here's my tail, so I'm going to go a little past the buck tail with it, and I'm just going to take my razor blade and cut it like that. There we go. So there is that. Now I'm going to show you something. You don't need to do this because the fish certainly don't care, but if you want, I just come in here and let me see if I can tighten up on it. See if I can do this. I'm just going to take the corner off. Let's slide that one off. And let's do it on the other side. Slide that one off. And that'll put a little taper on the rabbit, which I'm sure will make all the difference in the world when you fish it. All right. So now I'm going to adjust my hook a little bit because remember this hook has an angle to it, so I'm going to bring it up a little more parallel. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put just a little bit of zap-a-gap on those thread wraps. Now I'm switching over to my UTC 200. This is a UTC 200 GSP. Todd's on. Hey Todd, how are you doing tonight? I'm going to do UTC 200. I'm going to just wrap it into that glued section like so, and we'll cut it. And then I'll just come down here and wrap the whole shank. What little bit of it there is there. Come back up. Okay, so now 2 colors of hair. So we'll start with the white, and just to kind of keep matching the color scheme, you know, we'll put the white on the bottom and the blue on top. So I'm going to come, and I'm going to want to get a pretty, the reason I'm using 200 GSP is I'm going to be cutting pretty big bunches of hair for this, because I want that head to be dense. I mean, really dense, because it's going to act, what the head's going to act like is like a bill on a Rapala. It's going to push water. Now, it's not going to have a nice tight wobble like a Rapala has. It'll be more erratic, but I want the head dense, and so I'm going to cut a pretty good sized bundle here. You can see that's a pretty big. It's more than I normally would handle, even on pretty good sized hair bugs, because I would stack on a lot of hair bugs. I would stack on. So let me trim top and bottom here. Good evening, Sean. How are you? Thanks for joining us. Okay, so here's my bundle. Come in, wrap. I get 2 wraps. So you see it's just wanting to start to flare, and then I'm going to push that bundle to the bottom and flare it in place, just like that. Now I'm going to take, now I've got a piece here. This is kind of a good illustration of belly hair versus flank hair. These are both dyed blue, but because you got the underlying gray and the flank hair, you can see it's a darker blue. This would be pretty good. It's kind of, I don't know, it'd be a little darker blue than my rabbit. This color really ties into the rabbit, so I'm going to use this. I don't know, but the thing about belly hair, this is a really good piece, by the way, because the hair is pretty long. But finding belly hair with some length to it, that's the trick. As Sean and a lot of you guys who are on at Tie Deer Hair probably know. Yeah, anyway, so let's come in here. Again, I'm going to get a pretty good sized bundle. And comb it out. And this I'm definitely stacking. I'll get into my stacker here. The hair work on this is pretty straightforward. It's not terribly hard to do. So I'm not doing colors or stacking different like spots and whatnot. So I've got this. I want to extend the tips back. I want a nice, collar on this. So I'm going back to, if I have the length in the hair, which I think I do here, I can come back to almost the bend. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to get 2 wraps, and then I'm going to hold it in place and just flare it right down. You can see I've got a pretty good flare there. I'm going to separate that. I really want some density up here, and I want a nice color. This is not going to be nearly as big a bunch. You can see it's a much smaller bunch here, but I'm just going to add a little tweak of hair up there just to really kind of make my collar a little better, a little more of a hair collar there, and just give me a little more hair in my overall, so I'll have that nice density to it. So I'll lay it in and just match the tips out to the proper length. Come in here and get 2 wraps and flare it in place. So there you go. Now let's separate that and push it back. Now this hair is not, you're not going to move this hair much on this hook shank. First of all, there's not a lot of hook shank to move it on. And I've got those underlying wraps, they're glued and all that, but I am going to try to do a little bit of a pack here. Let's see if I can get a little bit, and I did get just a little tiny bit of movement on it, but enough. Let's see if I can show you guys. There's not a lot of hook shank there to work with, but there's enough. I can do another bunch as long as I'm a little bit judicious in the amount of hair I cut. So come in here, same thing. Now you got to kind of guide your thread under and catch that hook shank. And now I've gotten 2 wraps. I'm going to roll this one to the bottom, put my thumb on it and flare it in place. It didn't do it real cleanly. I've got a little hair on top, but that's okay. I'm just going to not worry about it. And then grab a little bit of blue here. Comb it out. Okay, my hook is a little bit loose in my vise. That's okay though. So remember, there's that bend in the hook shank, so I've got it kind of angled up. So there we go. Now let me get the hook back in here. Make sure it's in my little groove here. Okay, now let's pack that back in there. Get some movement on it. Okay, now I'm going to get some good tension on it, bring it out front here. Oh, there we go. I just heard it pop into the groove. Try to get a couple of half hitches in there, and that'll give me something to push against. See if I can't get this hook into my little groove here so it's a little more solid. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So now I've got a couple knots in there. Let's come in and give it a little push. Like I said, it's not going to move much. I just moved it just a little bit. I mean, I just barely, let's see if I can show you. Yeah, I guess you can kind of see. I've just barely I got the hook eye exposed. I think I will be able to come in and put a little thread head on it after I'm done trimming it. Okay, so now let's finish out here. So put a little thread, apply it to the thread, obviously not the hair, because you'd really make a mess. So now you got to come in and slip under the hook shank so you're trying to not catch hair. Let me shorten my bobbin up and I'll make it a little easier. So I've gotten, I think, 2 wraps. 3 wraps is enough. Now that glued thread is in there, throw a couple half hitches on it and come in and cut it and look it over, and I think it's looking pretty good. So if you guys want to see, you can see the eye of the hook there. You can kind of see the density of the head. Okay, so now what I'm going to do with this thing is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use the eye of the hook as my guide, and then I'm gonna cut two parallel cuts, one on top and one on bottom, following so it's parallel to the eye of the hook. So I got a brand new blade here. Should be nice and sharp. So I'm going to rotate it up towards me here. Come in and look at it. So I'm going to come in now. I'm not going to get too deep into it to start with. I've cut deep enough in here. I've nicked the thread straps, and then of course everything falls apart. So I'm going to start up a little high. The main thing I want to do is just make sure I get parallel to the eye of the hook as my beginning point. Then I'll just saw back in that direction. Come down here, try to get as parallel as I can. Saw back in that direction. And so I've got these two flat cuts to kind of get me started. Okay, so now I'm going to grab my little shorter scissors here and come in and clean out the hair around the eye of the hook. I used to do this with a razor blade, but boy, if you nick the eye of the hook with the razor blade, the blade was just instantly dull at that point. So I've taken these little anadromous scissors. They're razor scissors. They're little 4-inch bladed scissors, and it kind of gets around the eye of the hook pretty nicely. And I can clean that out. Okay, so now, as the name implies, a wedge head. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to look at that, and I'm going to want to make two little cuts that's going to create a wedge here on the fly. So I'm going to start here and rest on the eye of the hook and angle my blade up. Okay, so that's my starting point. And then I'll just come up along that edge. And then I'm going to do the same thing. Actually, let me flip it over so I can work from the top here. So again, I'm going to kind of lay my blade on the eye of the hook and then kind of just come up, and make sure you wedge out. Don't get too tight. Don't make it too sharp. Now, one of the keys to this pattern is you want to have real sharp corners. You don't want it, normally like on a lot of my flies, like, I showed you this diver pattern earlier, you got a nice rounded head. You're cutting curves and things like that. You're not doing that on this one. You want it as flat as possible. So as I start to flatten this out, I'm going to come a little deeper in here and flatten that out, and I'm working those edges to try to keep them as sharp as I can. And I'll just let me just do a little cut up on this from the eye of the hook. That's not looking, oops, I just found something here. I see a couple folded over hairs here. Yes, I get folded over hairs. If you're tying a really pretty fly, you don't want that, but I don't think the fish care a whole lot. There we go. Yeah, I just captured on that last bunch. I must have captured some hair down in there, so let me clean that out of there on the bottom here. I'm going to come back a little further into the bottom. There we go, that worked. That looked pretty good. And all I'm doing here, like I said, I want to make these edges as flat and sharp as I can. So I'm doing real perpendicular cuts. And then let me look at it. They're pretty parallel. Top and bottom is pretty parallel to one another. Okay, let's put that aside. Come in here, let me just trim a couple little hairs off. I don't know if I would need to do this next thing. I like to do it. Well, one thing I can do is, on some patterns, I can come and give it a little pop of color on the front, which I kind of like. I don't know if it matters to the fish or not. This one I'm not. I'm just going back to my 3/0 thread, but I am going to just wrap a little bit of a thread head here over top of the gel spun. can hear my clocks going off in the background here. Okay, and then we'll come and do a little whip finish on this thing. And then I'm going to use my fingernails and just kind of really try to push those thread wraps back behind the eye of the hook. And then come and trim it out. So, see, I got a kind of a fairly nice little thread head there, the eye's out. I got a pretty square head. I get it over here in the camera. Maybe this side's a little high. Let's bring that side down just a little bit. Let me look at that again. Yeah, this side might be just a little high. I'll just come in here and trim that a little flatter. There we go. Yeah, I like that. I think this will fish. This will do the trick. Okay, now I'm going to come in. I'm going to put my eyes in. Okay, where did I set my eyes here? Here they are. So I'm using these Ultra Magic eyes. There, you can see there's got a little blue tint to them, which is a nice addition to this particular pattern with the blue and white. So I'm going to do my eyes a little differently than I do on my bass bugs. I'm just using some Gorilla Glue gel super glue. Give me a little stick out here. Okay, now one of the things I've discovered about this is when you put this glue gel, this super glue gel on the hair, push it down into the hair a little bit, because I've had it sit on top of the hair and it doesn't really adhere to, it doesn't have enough stuff to adhere to, so if you kind of push it down a little bit, the eyes stay better. Here's probably one of the trickier parts of this pattern. Can you set this eye on there without gluing your finger to the fly? So I'm just going to very lightly set it in place like that. And I'm not going to push on it with my finger. It's just sitting there. Okay, so now I'm going to come in with my stick and I'm going to push it in. And if you ever think about super glue, if you put some on your finger, you know, it stays liquid. It doesn't do anything until you do that. And once you put the pressure on it, and I've been told you take the oxygen away from it, that's when it adheres to it bonds. So I did that. I got a little excess glue there. I'll take that off. Now let's come around to the other side and we'll repeat on this side and make sure we get the eyes across from one another. Okay, and now grab my other eye, and again I'm just going to come in and lightly set it in place and try not to get my fingers stuck to it, because believe me, I've stuck these to my fingers too many times. And now I'll come in and I'll kind of push it in place, and once you hold it you can almost feel it suddenly adhere, you know. Okay, there we go. So there you can see the eyes on each side. So my last thing, and yes, Sean, I'm using glue. You got to understand about this fly. This is not a diving head. We're not worrying about the flotation nature of the hair. In fact, this fly has to be fished on a sink tip line. Or a sink tip or a full sink line, because remember, we're going to get it under the water. Let me, if I put this fly back in its proper orientation, you see how the head is pointed down, right? So I'm going to angle it back up though. So what I'm going to do is I'm just taking some Solar Res thin hard, and I'm going to put some in here. Now this is why I want to keep these sharp edges, because I'm going to work the Solar Res out here to the edge. So I put some on here, and now what I'm doing is I'm going to push it around. And I don't want a big puddle of it sitting up here on top of the head. I don't want some big shiny puddle. I want to push this down into the deer hair And I want to work it out to the edges because I want those edges to be as sharp, because I don't want them to soak up water and then start getting, the flatter it is, harder it is, the more water it's going to push when you strip it through the water. So, and then I'm just going to get just a little bit right here on the thread wraps. Check my eye, make sure I haven't put any glue in my eye. And that all looks pretty good. And then I'm going to take my UV light. I don't know if you guys need, I don't know if coming through the camera if you have to worry, I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm going to this light I got from my dentist. He was great. He was a fly fisherman too. He's my dentist for many years. It was an old UV light he had for doing dental adhesives, and it's like powerful. So, and I tend to not look at it. I tend to look away from it. So that's pretty well done. So let's flip it over. Let's do the same to the bottom. Put a little bit here on my thread wraps. And then I'm just going to put some out here. Push it out. Just work it out around towards the edges of this. Okay. Set that aside. Come in here and hit it. Okay. Yeah, and that's nice and cured now too. I see a stray hair here. Snip that out. Okay, so now, there it is. There's the fly. So now, I'll show you how I rig it real quick. So, start off, this is 25-pound test Maximum Chameleon. It's only a little short piece. There's a little piece of, I think, 20-pound Maximum Chameleon. This here is, I'm not sure. I tied this last year. I think this may be 20-pound Berkeley fluorocarbon. This is Berkeley. It's not super expensive. Okay, so all that is, blood knot and a blood knot and a perfection loop. Okay. And you come down here, and this is 30-pound wire with an Albright knot. Okay. And I got 40-pound wire, but 30-pound is plenty heavy for the lake fishing I do. But here's the thing I really want to share with you is this little device on the end. This is a Rio, a little Rio snap loop. Actually, the first time I saw these was many, many years ago. Richard Munoz, when I was on the Whiting Farms Pro team, he was working at Whiting Farms, and he got these from Tron River, which was a German tackle company. And he gave me a couple packages of them and said, try them out. And I really liked them. I liked them well enough that when I couldn't find them, I actually went to Bass Pro Shops, and they make a little different one. It's like a little loop with an eye in it, and you can snap it up through for Rapalas and stuff. But this one I like because of the way it snaps on. So if I snap it onto my fly, let's see if I can, let's take my fly I just tied and let's put it on this thing, roll it around here. Okay, so what this does, first of all, the hardware is not going to bother pike or musky, not even a little bit. But now this thing has got a complete hinge. Okay, and believe me, I use these clips. This is a very big one. I use much smaller ones. And I talk about this in my second book about using clips. You just get so much more movement out of your flies. I mean, there's no way. You can do loop knots if you want to, but doing loop knots with wire, then you got to re-knot it every time, and you're eating into your wire. I can come and go up. I'll fish my black one. Okay, or I'll fish my whatever, And the thing I'm not doing is I'm not burning into my wire leader every time. I'm not having to reconnect with my wire leader. And I use these clips all the time, and you can use them down real small. And I've caught bass. I mean, even my diving patterns. I'll put a small clip on my divers to get them to dive. And then this fly, it's unweighted, so obviously you're gonna determine its depth by the line that you fish it with. Okay. All right. So there you go. It's an Andres Anderson. He calls it a Sid pattern. I'm not sure where that name comes from. Sometimes what guys name flies is always kind of interesting. I tend to just be more descriptive. It's just kind of a wedge head streamer pattern. So there you have it. So let's see.